SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
On this Tuesday edition of podcast, of course, I'm glad you're both. Always glad that you are with me. Ole Miss baseball wins in an ugly one, but it doesn't matter. They are off to 4-0. We will talk about that. And then now that Trinidad Chambliss is officially back at Ole Miss, there is lists and odds and all that stuff coming out. And he has some Heisman hype. Is it deserved? Is it reality? And who is most responsible for his success? We will talk about that and more on this edition of the show. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast feed. If you're watching on YouTube, do not forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Just search Rebel Report and subscribe and leave a rating. If you like what you hear anyway, leave a rating and a review. And of course, right here on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Just go ahead and hit that button, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. And again, I am very glad that you are here. This edition of the show is brought to you by Logan Smith Shelter Insurance. He will take care of you if you are in Mississippi, anywhere in Mississippi. He's got award-winning services in auto insurance, home, life, and business. Do not skip out on life insurance. If you are around my age and you have young children in particular, and you don't have a life insurance policy, you need to get on that. That is something that is vital for you. Even if you don't have children, if you're married, you need life insurance. Get on that now. Give Logan Smith a call at Shelter Insurance, 601-823-3500, 601-823-3500. Auto, home, life, and business. Logan Smith Shelter Insurance will take care of you. So, quick thought on baseball. It's a midweek game. It is very important, just like from the weekend. You don't want to overreact too much to just one baseball game. It is something that I'm trying to caution myself from doing. This is not football. You got to get a football mentality out of baseball. And so one game and something that happens in one game is not something that means that this is what the team is or whatever. That being said, though, look, they got the win. That's the most important thing. But 5 errors tonight after a weekend where you had some shaky middle infield defense coming off of years now of poor defense. And as we've talked about many times, as you guys saw and you remember, just poor basic fundamental defensive baseball and not being able to field your position is what cost them a home regional last year. And we were talking about this on the radio show today, and one member of the radio audience in particular was just really upset with the fact that I keep talking about, hey, look, there's a lot to like about this team, starting pitching in particular. They're probably going to hit the baseball a long way on most nights, but there is a big red flag, and it is, middle infield in particular, shortstop is especially problematic, but 5 errors tonight, not just from one player. And you're going to get in situations in this league where you're not going to be able to beat everybody 11-3 or whatever. These errors, if they continue, are going to start costing them games that they should not lose. Routine plays they do not make. And if they don't change that, they're going to lose games that they should not lose because they're good at the other things. But we saw it in the regional. We saw it over the last few years. It's a major red flag. Does it mean this is what they're always going to be? Absolutely not. Can they improve this? 100% they can improve this. Does 4 games define a baseball team? Of course not. But I think you are lying to yourself if you're not looking at how things have gone so far in the field and are not at least having an antenna up wondering what the hell's going on. Because the way they played tonight is concerning and unacceptable. And it's a carryover for multiple years. If this was just a one-off, if it was just one night and they had a bad night, whatever, you could just dismiss it. But it's not just one night. It's not just the first 4 games. It's years of why aren't they able to get this part of it right? And so they got to figure it out, and they got to figure it out fast because the other parts of the team seem really nice. So got to figure that out. It's just not good enough right now. And of course, there's a long season, a lot of time to improve. But there is a red flag waving above this baseball team right now, and they got to figure it out. 5 errors is just is nuts, and they're not good enough, especially on the infield right now. But here's what I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight. This is the thing that I'm most interested in at the moment, and it is now that the Trinidad Chambliss court case, all that stuff is over. The NCAA could try to appeal, but it's not something that they are, if they even try, they are not likely to win. As I read to you guys the other day, something that a lawyer friend of mine wrote that just, it sounded like from reading his synopsis, it's an impossibility basically for the NCAA to get it overturned on appeal. So Trinidad Chambliss is going to be Ole Miss's quarterback, of course. We knew that already, but it's especially official now. And what you have seen is the hype machine start rolling, because now there's no ambiguity. Now there's no, well, we don't know quite yet if he's going to be there. We don't know what Ole Miss is going to be like because we don't know. There's no more we don't know. And you're starting to see some of the lists, some of the odds, some of that stuff start adjusting. And I saw this yesterday, and I wanted to bring it to you guys. Heisman odds for 2026. This is not SEC. This is nationwide. And Trinidad Chambliss is number 2 in the country right now. And these adjust from time to time. But right now, he's number 2 in the country in total Heisman odds. He is right behind Arch Manning, who's at 6-1. By the way, Chambliss is essentially 6.5 to 1, but it's 13-2. So you have 6-1 for Arch, 13-2 for Trinidad Chambliss, and 15-2 for CJ Carr. So pretty closely bunched together are those 3 guys. But that is the conversation that you're going to start having about Ole Miss all offseason, is a ton of hype and pressure. And we talked about pressure with Trinidad before. I think he's very well equipped to handle it. But the hype centered around him, which is really interesting, by the way, that he's getting that much hype because his offensive-minded head coach and his play caller are both gone to somewhere else. So that's what I am interested in, is number one, what will things look like in 2026 offensively? What kind of OC will John David Baker be? And also, you're really not seeing Trinidad get quote unquote punished for having lost Lane Kiffin and having lost John David Baker. Pretty interesting, right? Because the sales point is you see it, especially from people down in Tigerland, that, well, Lane and Charlie made Trinidad. He was good because of them. And now that they're gone, he's going to take a big step back and stuff like that. Nationally, he is not being punished in any way, shape, or form from that perspective. And that tells me 2 things. That tells me, number one, that it's obvious. I think it's obvious to us that watch him all the time that Trinidad was not made by a play caller. Now, the system is really good for him. It fits him, but he's going to be running the same one anyway. That he did things that transcend play caller. He did and will continue to do things that transcend scheme. Some of the plays, not just in the Sugar Bowl, it's really not just the Sugar Bowl, but that's the game that the most people watched that Ole Miss played and that drew the most attention. Those things transcend play calling and transcend scheme. That is just player being mentally right for the moment, athletically enough to be a high-level playmaker, escaping the pocket, but keeping his eyes downfield, the poise, that everything that comes with that. You don't teach that. That cannot be taught, and that is not the result of a play call. That is the result of the individual. And so that is what Ole Miss is returning at quarterback. And I do like that nationally you're getting a lot of respect for him, the player, absent the play caller, because coach and OC did not make him. They can't do those things. Not every player in the country can do the kind of things that he did. And number 2, it also shows that, at least when it comes to odds and stuff like that, that you have a lot of people that have paid attention to, one, Joe Judge returning, the quarterback's coach, despite Kiffin and Weiss being gone. Quarterback coach is still around, so that's number 1. And 2, John David Baker is a disciple of that system. And I think people are finally starting to wake up to the fact that, I mean, yeah, lose Kiffin and Weiss, but they brought in somebody that is from that tree, that went out on his own and put together really high-level offense completely on his own, and is now back, and they do very similar things. You heard my interview with Bryson Sanders. I mean, it's not going to be literally identical. There are wrinkles that he has that Weiss doesn't, and vice versa. But generally speaking, they're going to continue to run that offense that fits Trinidad beautifully. And it's a play caller. What I love about the hire that Pete made is the familiarity with the system, the disciple of the offense that works. And also it's somebody that went out and did it on his own. I would be a lot more concerned about what this season is going to be if it was a first-time OC. If John David Baker was still on the coaching staff, never left, never did it on his own, and was just elevated to OC, I'd be kind of concerned. First-time play caller, you don't have that in this case at all. So I really like the fact that when you're talking about these lists and things, people have noticed and are respecting and appreciating quarterback and what he is and what he will continue to be away from Kiffin and Weiss, but also the acknowledgement that Pete Golding made a really solid hire, again, from a disciple, from the tree, done it on his own, getting a lot of respect in that regard as well. So when you see him show up at number 2 on Heisman odds, it's absolutely justified. Now, there is a lot of pressure on John David Baker in particular to make sure that the offense can still hum this way. But another fascinating component to, despite all of the weirdness with the coaching staff and Kevin Smith and George McDonald and all that crap that we talked about at length, so we don't need to rehash that. One of the benefits of that, though, was Baker got to work right next to Weiss during the playoff run. I mean, they were sitting next to each other in the booth. I assume there was a lot of working together. And when we will get the opportunity to visit with John David Baker, that will happen in the future. I'm very excited to hear, one, what are some of the differences and similarities in the offenses in general, but also what did you learn during the playoff run? Did you take things about what makes it work with your quarterback? Was there anything that you learned that you wouldn't have thought of on your own? Like, what did you absorb during the playoff run? What did you take with you from that experience to adjust your own scheme as well? That him being there for that, I think has a chance to be incredibly valuable as well. So the respect is deserved, but I do love, truly, I think that when it comes to the discussion around Trinidad and Ole Miss in this offense, it's getting treated fairly by most people. Most people understand the context of it all. And so he's right where he belongs at number 2 in the Heisman odds. He's right where he belongs when somebody puts him number 1 in the SEC quarterback rankings. I think at media days, he'll end up being second team preseason all SEC because his last name is not Manning, but he'll be preseason first or second team all SEC quarterback. He will be all of those things, and he will have earned all of those things. And now, the pressure's on JDB and Joe Judge to make sure that the offense still hums. They have the personnel to do it. They have the quarterback to do it. And Heisman favorite, he belongs there. He absolutely belongs there. His team just has to win enough games around him to make it count. Other Heisman odds, by the way, I gave you. So Arch at 6-1, Chambliss at 13-2, CJ Carr at 15-2, Dante Moore and Josh Hoover at 10-1, Julian Sayin at 12-1, Levitt actually 13-1, Jaden Mayava at 14-1 alongside Jeremiah Smith, Darian Minson now at Miami at 15-1, John Mateer at 16-1, and Stockton at 18-1 alongside Lenoris Sellers. Those three don't make any sense to me at all. Mateer ahead of Stockton and Stockton sharing equal odds with Sellers. Give me a break on that one. So, there you go. Podcast is brought to you in part by Priority One Bank. They make you their priority every single day with their online banking platform. There's 16 locations in Mississippi, local loan servicing and decision-making. I can't talk tonight. Been a long day. I'm ready for bed myself. But Priority One Bank, they make you that priority. It's in the name. I feel it every time I go there, and you will too. Switch to Priority One Bank and bank with me there at Priority One Bank. Also, Advantage Business Systems, absms.com for all of your Mississippi office technology needs. And also, I've got a slot for one more. The sales team at SuperTalk has some proposals out there. If you want to get in ahead of that and you want to be a part of this podcast, I will not let it go oversold. I think that there's a happy medium with length and the number of advertisers. So if you want to be a part of this, it works and we can prove it. Send me an email, borky@supertalk.fm, if you want to be a part of this podcast or the radio show as well. Why not? But there's very little time left if you want to be a part. So just let me know. To the comments we go. The women's basketball team is a championship-winning team when they play to their best. Going to be fun watching them in the tournament. Yeah, they've got Kim Mulkey coming to town soon, don't they? Let's see. I probably should know these things, especially with how well they're playing. They dominated Tennessee tonight, which was a big win. Yeah, Thursday. Wow. Thursday, Kim Mulkey, ESPN as well in Oxford. Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Ooh, that's a late one. It's a late one. We'll be live that night. No, I'm not staying up to. We'll watch the game after the podcast because I can't stay up that late. What would it mean for Ole Miss as a program to finally have a Heisman Trophy winner? It would just be validation, I think would be the word that I would use. Validation that you're winning enough, validation for perception. I mean, Mendoza won this year, so that kind of alters the trend as well. But it would be validation for a program. I love how people just forget that Joe Judge had a big impact on Trinidad coming to Ole Miss. And he's a huge reason. I mean, they've gotten so close and they've both talked about it. And he's a huge reason why Trinidad didn't explore transferring. I don't think he would have regardless, but Joe Judge is a big reason why. Baker runs an offense that Trinidad can thrive in. Best backfield in the country, potentially. Definitely the best returning single back in the country. And I love what they did in the portal there as well. So to think the Realtree helmets are gone for good now that there's a new coach. Really hope not. Love the Realtree helmet games. No, I frankly, I think that Realtree, I don't know this, but I would not be surprised if Realtree is even more committed now than they were before, considering how things went down. So unless they want to be done with it, or unless when they go to sell the jersey patch, there's a conflict, I would be surprised if those don't continue. Now, maybe they're not. Maybe the Jordans have talked about it already, and I just haven't seen that. But I would be surprised if Kiffin leaving has done anything other than inspire them more with the way it went down. Staff in place can win, and JDB was there for Dart's first 2 seasons when he played his best, too. How about that? I feel like that's more tied to the program than an individual. Oh, you're talking about Realtree. Yeah, I agree. Now that Nashville has an indoor stadium, could you see the SEC start to rotate the championship game? It would be cool to rotate it. Imagine Nashville, New Orleans, Atlanta, Dallas all hosting the SEC championship. I think the SEC championship's days are numbered, personally. When the playoff goes to 16, what will be the point of the SEC championship? Truly, what's the point? Oh, well, you get to hang a banner. Well, is that worth getting your quarterback hurt? Because you're making the playoff regardless. Everybody loves to bet and looked at the odds for a natty. Ole Miss has a higher odds to win the natty than coming into this year's playoffs. How about that? That is wild to think about. And Ole Miss had a ball in the air in the semifinal to go to the national championship. Of the 5 road trips this year, how would you rank the 5 road trips in order of interest if yourself were going to the games? Okay, so not rank them in terms of difficulty, interest if you were going to the games. Okay, I like that question. Texas is obviously number one. I think Texas is number one for every reason because it's Austin, and Austin is cool. At least so I've heard. I have not been. I would love to go, mostly so I can see shows at the Comedy Mothership and watch a taping of Kill Tony, but that's another conversation. So Texas is the obvious number one there. So you said 5 road games. Louisville counts as one. That would be my number 3. So at Texas, at Oklahoma. It's going to be odd. Some of you will disagree with this. Louisville, at Florida, at Vanderbilt. I think the Louisville game in Nashville is just fascinating because it is Pete Golding's first game as head coach with a full off season, with it being all his staff. John David Baker's first game as the Ole Miss offensive coordinator, all that stuff. That game is super intriguing to me, more so than the game at Florida, which I know sounds odd. I know, but I think the season opener compels me a little bit more than the Florida game. I know that sounds crazy, but that would be my ranking. Still a ton of people who can't stand the fact that Chambliss is suiting up for another year. That's what's wrong with college football. They have no idea he was getting screwed. Yeah, it's people that did not want to learn or did not want to understand. Or, Hudson, the poorly kept secret is it's a lot of people that don't like to lose to Ole Miss. There's a reason LSU fans were so invested in it. There's a reason that Georgia fans were so invested in it. There's a reason that Mississippi State fans were so invested in it, because he beat them all. That's why. Facility this offseason gave us more conference realignment. This offseason, would you believe? Hold on. If I told you this offseason gave us more conference realignment, would you believe it? I'm going to edit for you there. Would you believe it? And if you see it coming, what moves do you see happening? This offseason, I don't see any. Not major moves, anyway. Not this offseason. Next offseason with the ACC, I think you're going to get some fireworks. Doing what you do for a living. What's worse for you as a creator, podcaster, radio host? Having a dead period when the teams you cover aren't playing, or when they're playing and they aren't winning? I'll be honest with you. When they're playing and they're not winning is more difficult than the summer. And here's why. When they're playing and they're not winning, you still feel that like there's an obligation to still talk about it. But it's miserable to talk about because bad teams rarely change. The games aren't interesting. They lose a lot. The fans don't really want to hear about it, but there are your P1 audience that wants to hear you talk about the game because it's their team and their team played and they want to hear what you think. And so you have to do it. And it's a slog because it's just, well, they're bad and they lost because they're bad. And it's a slog, but people want to hear that slog. In the summer, you can goof off, you can have fun, you can do preseason lists, nobody's lost a game yet in the off season. So everybody's kind of happy. And the audiences get smaller in the summer because people are going on vacation and, there's not as much sports going on. So there's less of an engaged body of people. But this summer we'll have the World Cup. So that'll be pretty intense. Even a Mississippi statewide radio audience gets into the World Cup. It's a lot of fun. Gosh, this will be my 3rd World Cup at SuperTalk. Wow. And the audience really does get into it, which is fun. But in the off season, that everybody's happy. During a bad season, nobody's happy. So there's your difference. The deal Notre Dame got with the committee is BS. Blame the commissioners for that one. When are they bringing online sports betting to Mississippi? Never. There are certain lobbies that are blocking it, and it'll never happen. Do we think all conference championships will eventually go away? I do. I do think all of the power conference championships will go away if the playoff keeps expanding. What they replace them with, it depends on what the format is. If it's just 1 through 16, then God knows what they're going to do on champion. And maybe they keep them if that's the format that they go with. But if they go with the automatic bid format, you could see play-in games possibly on that day. They've talked about that. So might be mistaken. The cheapest tickets for the LSU game you saw was around $500 already. It's going to be a zoo. Both teams will be undefeated, likely to be undefeated. College game day, very likely going to be there. That'll be the most intense environment in the history of the stadium. And there is so much pressure on both head coaches to win that game. I mean, it's hard to describe. Do we feel as if the commissioner of the SEC is really using his power to vouch for his teams? Definitely doesn't feel like it. What is he going to do about coaches going to other schools in a season? That frankly is something, Hudson, that I'm going to ask him about when we get to visit with him at SEC Media Days. Is you in your league had a coach being courted by two other members of your league, and it happened very publicly during a season in which a team made the playoff. Did you intervene at the league office, and what is the league office's stance on how that happened? There's your question right there. And I don't think you're going to get an answer that's not political, but I will ask. Absolutely, I will ask. And I am very curious to hear what his answer is. And I am interested in that too, because you saw him write a letter to the judge in Alabama to block Bediako from continuing to play. Did not do that in the Chambliss case. As far as I know, did not do that in the Aguilar case in Knoxville. But I think most people agree that the Bediako thing is just a bridge too far. Is that the only time he's going to intervene? What is he doing behind the scenes to advocate for his members? Because publicly, the league got stuffed in a locker on the 9-game conference thing. We've talked about that before. That was a bad move in hindsight. Adding 8 more losses to your league when the College Football Playoff Selection Committee has not used strength of schedule to make their selections consistently, at least. I'm concerned about things like that. And this summer, we'll get the chance to talk to him about it. So we shall see. But I'm going to hang it up, guys. I know it's a shorter one, but I'm going to get to bed. So I really appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. And don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Special edition interview coming tomorrow. It'll get posted tomorrow night. Somebody guessed John Rice Plumlee. It's not John Rice Plumlee, but it is a player that played for Ole Miss and started for Ole Miss and transferred out, actually. And I think you guys are going to like it. I hope you do. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. I'll see you then, and y'all have a good night.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.